What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on the Pull Focus podcast. I'm Quentin, and today's guest, we have an amazing photographer out of Charleston, West Virginia, that focuses in studio and flash photography. Not only is he a photographer, he's also a police officer as well. So today we're going to talk about some balance of work life along with photography and the mixture of the both. But without further ado, welcome Mr. Kevin Young.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Dude, it's great. I know we've been following each other for a long time too. So like, we just now got together and doing a collaboration on a project.
Sure.
So it's just like, it's insane. I love your work too. It's like, I was telling you kind of like right before we was hitting record, it's like, we're complete opposites, but at the same time, you have your strengths and I have my strengths, but it's like
Sure.
I don't know, it's crazy when you see both of them together and stuff.
Yeah.
So, how did we'll just kind of like go into a little bit of history and how you got into photography and so forth.
So I'm originally from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I came to West Virginia to go to college. I started my college career at Marshall University
Okay.
to play. I was playing football down there, and then I transferred up to West Virginia State University, and that's where I graduated at.
Okay.
I have my bachelor's in communication with emphasis on broadcasting. I have a 2-year in science, and then I have a master's in strategic leadership. So that's what kind of got me to West Virginia. Photography, I've always known that I was going to, pursue a career in photography since I was little. I always loved to take pictures. It's just always been a passion of mine since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, when I got into it, I just wanted to make sure that I could do it right. Because
Right.
I don't really like to half step on a lot of on stuff that I do.
Yeah, I think that's with a lot of. I consider us a little bit more of the older generation and stuff too. It's like my parents, they raised me as like, if you're going to do something, don't half-ass something.
Sure.
Like put pride into it. Make sure that we kind of talked about that on last episode as well. It's like you just never know who's going to be your next employer. You don't know who's going to be your next model or anything like that. And people they catch up on it and stuff.
Sure.
But it's interesting you said that what you wanted to be ever since a kid though. I remember so in 4th grade we had we had to fill out like a little like questionnaire thing for like the yearbook at the time, and one of the things I put in there was I want to be a National Geographic photographer.
Okay.
So like my dad, we didn't have TV or anything growing up, but he would get National Geographics all the time, and he has them like dating back all the way from like the 60s.
Okay.
And I was just like, you see all these photographers out there getting these amazing shots in these different cultures. I'm just like, oh yeah, like that would be such a job, And so it's like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there, but I still feel like I'm living out like a bit and piece of that stuff right now.
Well, I first was introduced to photography in school. Where I come from in Washington, D.C., is a real tough area. So it's not a lot of people that I seen in my area where I grew up at that was into photography.
Yeah.
So that was kind of something that I seen while I was in school, just in magazines when you would go into the library and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's where I first got introduced to photography.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So and you do a lot of studio work. You do outside as well, but you do like flat. I would
Strobe photography. Yeah.
So what made you kind of like lean into like that type? Because I'll be honest with you, I've never touched a strobe
Really?
in my whole entire life. I don't even know where the first.
Really?
I don't even know where to begin.
So, believe it or not, so I started out doing landscape photography.
Okay.
That was my thing. I used to travel to all the parks in West Virginia and just shoot landscape.
Yeah.
And that's what started. That's how I started here. And so, I was going out buying different lenses and stuff like that. And so, my wife got on to me because I was spending tons of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was spending tons of money on lenses and camera bodies and stuff like that. And so she was like, hey, look, you can't be going out here spending all this money on these lenses and you not making no money from photography if it's just a hobby or whatever, So, and I was like, well, I just loved it so much. I didn't mind spending the money on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I understood where she was coming from too. And so I started doing seniors.
Yeah.
I started shooting seniors, and I was shooting natural light. And I love natural light. Don't get me wrong. I still shoot natural light, even though 99.9% of my shoots I do with strobes. But I still love natural light, and I have it such now that you can't tell really when I use strobes and when I don't use strobes.
Right.
That's the key to it.
Yep.
But what got me into using strobes is when I would go out and I would do natural light, I would always look at my images and they were okay, but I always felt like something was missing.
Right.
Like that pop
Yep.
from the images that I seen online, and for some of the photographers that I follow, Manny Ortiz,
Yep.
Keedron,
Yep.
924 Photography, Francisco Hernandez, and all those guys, and I just knew something was missing from my photos, and I used to always put them online in those photography forums and stuff like that, and get critiques and stuff like that on my shots, and so I bought my first set of strobes in probably 2013, 14. I bought some Paul C. Buff Einsteins.
Okay.
And I started messing around with those. And once I got familiar with them, I remember I was shooting a senior downtown Charleston. And it was the first time that I had used strobes back in 2014. And I was shooting a senior. And I remember bringing the photos back home and putting them on the computer, and I seen how they came out, and right then and there, I knew. I said, "That's it. That's what I was missing."
Oh man, that is one of the best feelings because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
It's like that. It clicks and it naturally clicks. It's not forced or anything.
Yeah, because I could see the images in my head.
Yep.
But when I was shooting natural light, I could see the images in my head and how I wanted them to look, but I couldn't quite get them there.
Yeah.
And so I would always think, okay, well, maybe it's the editing and stuff like that. But then, after being introduced to strobes and stuff like that, I said, no, that's what it was. It was the flash. It was the lighting. And once you learn how to finesse that light, so I took a liking to manipulating light. Making it do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to go on a scene and not I like to be in control. So I want to control every aspect of that photo. Yeah. And I want to light the photo, and I wanted to look the way that it looks in my head when I'm envisioning how I want this photo to look. And with strobes, it allows me to do that.
Yeah. It's amazing too because like I can be scrolling and I mean, I follow a lot of models that you shoot and stuff, and we've shot a lot of the same models as well. And I can tell every single time when a K Young photo is on my screen. And that is like a very valuable piece right there too, because you have such a certain edit, certain shot that you get, that you capture, and you're just like, yep, that's like, it's trademarked almost just by the look of it. And I got to a point a couple years ago. I could recognize my own if somebody like didn't like. It's just one of those things you just know you shot and stuff. And but I'll be scrolling and it doesn't matter who that person is, and then I'll go and look, tagged. Yep, there you are and stuff. And I was like, killed it, man. Just keep on. And you've done shoots that's like been in. Like creeks, you've been in urban environments, you've been, so you haven't been limited with that equipment as well.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, I carry my my strobes go everywhere I go. And I'm not afraid to get down and dirty. Like I said, I'm down in the water, I'm in creeks and everywhere, man. And
I think that's the process too. A lot of people just really forget. I mean, I'll probably mention this a lot during this whole entire series of podcasts, but it's just like a lot of people think that we show up for 20 minutes, we shoot, and then we're done. And it's if it's a new location, we got to study it, we got to figure out what's the lighting, what's the best place. If it's a place that we've already shot, how can we make it different? So like I know for me, I'm constantly in this like battle of like, okay, I've shot here so many times. I don't want to be a cookie cutter photographer. I want to do something different for every one of my clients. And it's hard because you get like some really good ones that understands the process, and there's some that they want that cookie cutter photographer. They just want something high res and just move on. And I typically don't work with those clients anymore and stuff. I like the ones that challenge me and stuff too.
Yeah, sure.
But no, that's awesome though. I mean, like I said, I think when I first started, I had a light setup. I bought it off Amazon. It was like $150. It was just like some umbrella lights. You know, it wasn't no strobes at all. It was just that was light. And what I just didn't like about it was I like taking a camera and just like going anywhere. And I think maybe that's like part of me. I just don't want to be like, I'm kind of like lazy and don't want to like lug all the gear and stuff.
And that's the. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say like, and I think that is the part that has limited me in that whole entire process of it. Is that knowing that it's like, okay, now I gotta pack all this up, pack it all out and stuff. But when you see one of those images, you're just like, when you know what you're doing and stuff too, it's like the process is definitely worth a lot more.
And that's what scares a lot of people away from using strobes and stuff on location when shooting is it is a lot to lug all that stuff around.
Yeah.
On location, especially when you're shooting in places like, in the creeks and the water and stuff like that, where, some of the places that in the summertime are my best sellers. Like my water sessions and stuff that I do, are my best sellers in the summertime, going to the waterfalls and stuff like that. So it is a lot lugging that stuff around. I'm not even gonna lie, it's a lot. But the end result for me is what gives me that satisfaction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I take one of those shots and I get it back home and I unload it on my computer and I look at it, the satisfaction that I get from it, the satisfaction that I get from when I deliver the customer the image, the satisfaction that I get from that.
Yeah.
When I go out onto a shoot, my goal is to try to make that female or male look the best that they can look. You know what I mean? So and by lighting, everybody, I don't light everybody the same. So when I go out onto a location, I don't know how I'm gonna light that subject or what lighting, setup I'm going to use until I see the subject in person.
Yeah.
Because you can't light everybody. You can't light everybody the same.
Yeah.
And that comes with knowing lighting, and like I said, being able to finesse lighting, and then knowing what modifiers to use and when to use them and how to use them to get the effect that you want on the subject. You know what I mean? So all that stuff come into play, and that just goes back to what you were saying when you said, people just think we show up and snap the camera. Because I always get, sometimes when I'm shooting, the customer will say, man, that camera take good pictures. And so my reply to that always is, well, it's not the camera. The camera's just a tool, right? I manipulate the camera to make it do what I wanted to do. And I'll better have you to understand that by this. If I scrambled all these settings up, right? And got up from behind the camera and say, hey, now you come get this same, you come do what I just did and let me stand in front of the camera. The customer probably couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that right there proves that it's not the camera.
Well, it's just like a musician tuning a guitar. Like if you don't know how to tune it in the first place, you're not going to create beautiful music and stuff.
Exactly.
So like, it's just you hear that, and I think too a lot of it is not. Most of the time, they don't mean any.
Sure, no, they don't mean any harm. They don't know.
They're just not educated with it, and a lot of it is always I would say more rural customers.
Yeah,
they always say that type of stuff, and I'm just like,
it used to rub me the wrong way.
It
used to rub me the wrong way, but then I had to stop and I had to think and be like, well, they don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They
well,
don't
see,
know.
my mom used to be like my biggest critic about that and stuff. She's like, oh, that camera's so expensive. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but I literally just went to school for this. Like, I'm learning this and stuff. And she's getting to a point now. She understands like most of the stuff that I'm doing and everything. But so do you shoot with Canon or?
Yeah, I'm a Canon. Well, I tell you what, I got a story about that. So I started out with a Nikon. I started out shooting Nikon. I had the D53 and 5200.
Okay.
So entry level bodies.
Yeah.
That's what I started out with. And so earlier in my photography career, I used to go around every month. I would go around the pawn shops, just to see what I could find
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I happened to go into a pawn shop in Huntington, and when I went there, they had a one of the higher end Nikons. And I said, well, y'all don't have anything else in the back?
Yeah.
She said, well, I got a Canon camera in the back that a guy he just lost his pawn, and we just hadn't bought it out yet. I said, well, let me check it out.
Yeah.
And so she bought a big box from back in the back, and so I looked and opened it up, and it was Canon equipment. It was a 1DX. It had a 70-200 f2.8.
Okay.
It had a 50 millimeter f1.2. It had an 85 1.2. It had a 135 f2.
Oh, you're set.
And the 1DX. And so I'm looking at this camera, and I'm like, and I know how much the 1DX cost at the time.
Yeah.
That was a $6,000 camera. You know what I mean? So I said, well, how much do you want for this? She said, well, what do you think it's worth? I don't know nothing about cameras.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I mean, I'll give you $600 for it, for everything. And it also had 4 580 EX2 flashes with it too. It had 4 of those. I said, I'll give you $600 for everything. And I'm just throwing a number out there because I'm thinking in my mind the camera by itself is $6,000, and each one of those lenses is at least upwards to $2,000. She said, okay.
No.
And so I'm just standing there, and I'm like, oh. So I ran to the ATM machine.
Yeah.
Got the money, and came back. I just couldn't believe it.
Dude.
I just couldn't believe that I had this camera, man, because I'm like, I at that time, I couldn't justify going and spend $6,000 for a camera, let alone all those lenses. That covered every portrait lens that you would ever need right there. And so I went and sold all my Nikon stuff to different friends and stuff like that. And so that's what got me really into Canon. I actually think, and you may be, you may not think so, but I think Canon cameras produce the best colors. Straight out of camera.
I 100% agree with you, actually.
Straight out of camera.
I have opinions with all, like the big ones and stuff. You got Nikon, Canon, and Sony, and Sony has the best low light and video quality in my opinion. Canon, I think, creates the best color in portraits, and Nikon, I like shooting more sports with their shutter speed. In my opinion, is best and stuff. And I've shot with all 3 of them, so I feel like, but if I had to go and do individual, whatever I needed to do, I would pick a certain one for each thing. But no, I completely agree. I had a Canon Mark II before this one, and because right now that this is being filmed on a A7R Sony, and that camera right there is about it's $1,800 now. When I first bought it a couple years ago, it was like $2,700. And I knew I was wanting to get into low light and video at the same time, and I was like, what? I don't want to have one camera do this. I want it kind of the setup right there, and the only thing that kept on showing up was Sony,
right.
And I shot one wedding, and it just immediately paid for itself, and I was just like, I would never been able to get that with the Canon that I had, that I knew how to get. You know what I mean? I just didn't have. And another thing too is those, out of all 3 of them, that was probably the most user friendly one too.
You think so?
Yeah.
See, I always thought Canon cameras were user friendly. Short and sweet, didn't really have a lot of buttons.
I think it depends on which series it is and stuff.
See, right now I'm using the R5.
Yeah.
And
those are so good.
I still have a 1DX. I had a R6, and occasionally, I use the R3 too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Those.
All mirrorless bodies. Some of Canon. Newer mirrorless stuff, but they're coming out with the Mark II of the R5 here soon, and then the R1 will be out here soon. So
they just came out with a 4S on that Sony, and that thing, I mean, it's speechless what you can do on it and stuff. Man, the shutter speed is incredible, and just you're looking at it and you're just like, why is there a camera almost this powerful in a sense? For Some of it makes sense, like depending on if you're going to be doing like print work or like editorials or something like that,
Sure.
like, and you're shooting like in crazy environments. But it's like the regular hobbyist, why is that like why is there a market available for that and stuff?
Yeah.
And
Well, you got some guys out here who just got money to spend. You know what I mean? So, but for me,
yeah,
even the R5 Mark II, you know, a lot of the stuff that I have, even right now, I got tons of equipment, man.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the stuff that I have, I really don't need. I just, you know, it's stuff that I want.
Yeah.
And, you know, I work hard, you know, doing photography and law enforcement and stuff like that. So I work hard. So I'm one of them type of people, man, that feel like if I work hard every day, then I should be able to have what I want.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So
When I first started, I was big into like, well, I'd get a lens and then I'd sell it or get rid of it and try to do different ones. And then I just stuck, and I was using the 50 all the time, and it was my go-to portrait one.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I need another one. And then the older I got, the more I'm starting to hoard all my stuff. I'm like, I'm not selling.
I'm not
Like,
selling.
I was like, I've already sold it a couple times, like, and I've rebought it. I've done it like. I mean, I bought. I have a DJI gimbal and stuff, and I've had 3 of those, the Ronin S's, and I'm just like, why do I keep selling
them and buying them again.
But it's like when
selling
I need it, I need it,
Yeah.
and so it's like I just need to quit. Like, you know, I just start hoarding it, and now that I'm going full time and everything, like I kind of like rearranged the office at home, and my wife is. I don't know if she's really happy about it or not, but I'm just like, I'm going.
Yeah.
I got the new cabinets and everything there. I'm just like,
Man,
I'm trying.
I'm happy
really
for
hard.
you, man. I'm happy for you. It's something that eventually I'll do whenever I decide to retire from law enforcement, which I've been in for 18 years now.
Yeah.
So whenever I decide to retire from there, you know, that's what I'm gonna do. You know, go full time photography and stuff like that. If I wasn't so deep into my law enforcement career, I would make a move like that now. But you know, it's kind of
There's
can't
too many
just
benefits.
yeah. Well,
right
it's the benefits, and then like I said, you know, when you got a family, you know, I got an 8-year-old daughter, and
I have
you
a
know,
border
wife,
collie
so.
and a cat.
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah,
that's another reason why I'm just like the time was now for me and stuff.
Yeah.
But I completely agree.
Because
with
once
you.
you know you can get established, you know, you can still got time to get established and make a good income coming in from photography. But the thing that I hate now more so than the market is saturated.
Yes.
I hate the fact that people can go out and buy a camera and just put such and such photography, you know, and you know, you get they'll post some pictures on you know, Facebook, and they got, you know, 15,000 friends, and all their friends tell them they're the best photographer in the world.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm seeing it 50-50 though, because I talked a little bit about it in the last episode with Autumn and stuff. She was a guest, and that used to be when I was younger. It used to bother me. The older I'm getting, I'm not so much, because I'm trying to like really. Most of those people that's doing that, they never.
They don't last.
Yeah, they don't last.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if it really, I know I'm in it for the long haul, because it's just my passion with it, like of how I do things with a paid customer, and when I do like style shoots and stuff.
Sure.
I know my passion's there. I'm in it for the long haul. But you're right. You're absolutely right. They'll get a camera during Christmas, or they'll get it for their birthday. They'll have somebody say, "These are beautiful," blah blah blah. No composition, no editing, nothing. And they'll start charging people. Now the problem with that is, I mean, you got people that, I mean, I charged $200 for my first wedding ever, and now I charge $3,000.
Yeah.
And I've learned the difference between it, but I've learned through like the education part of it. You know, I upgraded my equipment. I have years onto it now. That's the reason why I changed that. But if you have someone out here charging like $700, $800 with no experience, it's a little bit people. One of my biggest pet peeves in all these groups and just everybody is when people post, "Does anyone know a photographer that doesn't cost an arm and a leg?"
Yeah.
I hate that so much, because there's a reason why we have our prices the way we do. And I don't know, and I'm starting to feel like I'm getting to know a lot of photographers in West Virginia. There's not that many that I look at them like, that's a lot. You know, like I feel like a lot of them is very, very fair for their prices.
And a lot of them probably could even afford sometimes to raise their prices.
Yeah, 100%.
And some of my prices I can probably afford to raise.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's like, and you see it a lot in fall. I've been seeing it now because of like Easter minis and things like that, and people do. And I know I'm never going to like dabble in that because I really don't want to. I want to like have a certain niche of like, one thing, I just want to work with adults. I mean, I think too. I don't want to. If I do seniors, is only because I've known the people. If I do like, I did a family session this earlier, and I've known that guy for like 8 years.
Yeah.
So I know that the customer is not going to be problematic in a way. They're going to work with me. They just want to get some good stuff and move on. It is. I just don't want to, mix the two and stuff. I want to have a certain thing. But no, I completely agree with you on that. And another thing too is like a lot of these. I mean, there's a lot of these people too that I've seen that has a really good camera and they're shooting on automatic or they're shooting in JPEGs and not.
Nowadays with these cameras, just like even the one we're recording on right now, you can put it in auto and produce some good photos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's the reason also why I like to use strobes as well, because like you said, it gives you a unique look.
Yeah.
The way you light certain things will always be different from the way somebody else may light it or the way somebody else may see it.
Right.
And so that's another reason why I gravitated to strobe photography.
So with being a police officer as well, do you, like, I'm sure this is something that's true, is that you meet different characters on a daily basis.
Oh, sure.
Does that ever inspire you and you see anybody like, man, I would love to do a portrait, but you can't like almost like mix the two and stuff as well?
Yeah, well, it doesn't really I guess it all depends. That never has really stopped me from shooting somebody if I seen somebody that I wanted to shoot while I was on duty or whatever, as long as I don't do it while I'm on duty.
Right.
You know what I mean? Photography is another business of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I try not to mix the two, but when I'm operating as 4Everyoung Fotos, that's just different. I just happened to see that individual while I was at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I feel like I would be very inspired by some people, and because in college I was an RA, and that's obviously not the same thing as police officer, but in its own right, you're always like policing something and stuff, and you're going and you're in these dorms, and so it gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people at one time. And so I went to Glenville State, so that's where I graduated from, and even though it was a small school, I'm originally from Calhoun County, so very small town. I graduated 69 people in my high school. So like when I went to Glenville, I thought that was like big town, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it put me, being an RA, like made me like see a lot of people. So I would like see people that was just from like different states that had like tattoos, and there's like one of my best friends, he looks like MGK almost without a task, but he's one of the nicest people ever.
Right.
So like I used him as a model in some of like my senior portfolio and everything. And just because he was unique looking, I didn't see that before, so it inspired me to, like shoot it. So like I would imagine like you see some people and you're just like, man,
they photograph well.
Yeah.
I would always practice. So what I did, in my earlier years of photography, and sometimes I still do it now, is I would buy those dummy heads from like the beauty supply store.
Yeah.
And I would set them up on light stands. And I would be in my garage practicing different lighting patterns, Rembrandt, loop lighting, clamshell, and all that stuff. And I would that's how I would practice. And I also had a couple of female friends that I would practice on and stuff like that. Photography, man, just to sum it up, it just never gets old to me, man. Like I do something involving photography every day. I still feel the same way I felt about photography the first day that I seen it and I knew I wanted to do it. That excitement when I have a shoot the next day, editing the pictures, after taking the pictures and seeing the results, I still get that high from those photos. When I go to bed at night, I'm still, looking at YouTube videos.
Oh.
It's always on my mind. It never leaves to the point to where my wife is just like, man, you just like, you're obsessed.
Yeah.
With photography. Yeah. All you think about is photography. And that's all I think about. And I think people don't understand, because some people, I guess it's hard for people to understand because they never really, maybe never really had a passion like that and been passionate about something. You got people who get into photography for different reasons. You got people who get in photography to be around females. You got people who get into photography, for money. It's never been about none of that with me. It's always been about creating. When I got a female in front of my camera, and of course you got a beautiful female in front of your camera. You know what I mean? You can see that. But I've never made anyone feel uncomfortable. I've
heard, like, the people that I've shot with and stuff, they always give you, they're like, oh, I love, like, he's great, like, he's always, like, I've never heard any negative.
I'm always about my business. I'm patient, especially working with new models. I try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. I don't never touch anybody. I ask them if if it's their hair out of place or something like that. I ask them before I touch them. Also, a lot of my photos, 90% of my photos, I shoot females, but 90% of the outfits and everything that you see those females in, they pick out. So I always try to let the models understand that and let them know that, hey, look, I'm not trying to get you in here and get you out of your clothes. You know what I mean? So you send me 3 outfits that you're comfortable shooting in. You know what I mean? And that'll let me know what type of modeling and stuff like that you like. If there's a pose that you've been, because all the posing and stuff like that, 90% of it I do myself. That's a whole nother beast that people really don't understand.
Yeah, you was reading that book the other day. I had that same book.
I had that book for years, and so that's that book really helped me out in posing and composition and stuff like that. But that's another thing that people really don't take into consideration too, is when you go out on these sessions, not only are you worried about lighting, camera settings, and all that stuff, you also have to pose the models and pose the families or whatever type of genre of photography you're doing. You also got to worry about the posing and stuff too. So we're out there like, just doing everything.
Yeah, there's, and I was going to mention too, because you was talking about a couple things that I wanted to hit on as well, just being a male photographer in the industry as well. There's some of them that abuse it, and there's some of them that, like, I feel like are really trying their best to be as professional as possible and stuff. And I know, like, for me, I pretty much go around the same route as you. If it's the first time I'm ever shooting with them, I always try to, like, say, hey, why don't you bring a friend? Why don't you bring, like, somebody and stuff? And then I try to, like, because you've seen, like, some of my work too, is I wouldn't say it's like very tasteful, but it's also like a little bit risque at the same time. But I try to tell them too, I was like, you give me outfits, whatever you feel comfortable at the time, at any point, you just let me know, and then it's my job as a photographer to rework that and stuff. I know for me, like, if I was on that side of it, like, you can feel the tension if it doesn't work, and I have had a couple shoots where they just don't want to do that once they thought they did, but once they kind of, like, warmed up, and then you just gotta, like, rework it. And and then they don't have no, like, you kind of, like, you just gotta be vocal during it. I think is, like, one of the best things. But and another thing too, I would say that is just difficult overall is, like, being, because I only know, like, of probably like 5 or 6 like male photographers that probably does, like, some of the stuff that we do in West Virginia. Like, West Virginia's just not used to seeing some of that stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, and so
I get that question all the time. Why you only shoot females? I'm like, well, females are the only ones contacting me.
Guys flake on me all the time.
All the time.
The only ones that is on my page is the ones that I either went to college with that knows me, or ones has came to me for a page shoot that they needed something for. every single one that I've tried to reach out to, try to shoot, they were like, oh, they'll be all about it. As soon as I'd be like, the day before, I get ghosted.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like, dude, just tell me you don't want to. Like, that's cool. I'm just trying to, like, but that's.
Females are the only ones that message me for work.
Yeah.
And for paid jobs and stuff like that. I'm not opposed to shooting males. I don't shoot males. I have a couple males on my page, but overwhelmingly the females outnumber the guys.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's very, that part is very frustrating and stuff too, because I feel like every single shoot you have to like almost validate yourself as be like, hey, no, I am a professional. Like this is not like and all it takes is like one person to ruin it, for us, as males to like.
Oh yeah, man,
and then
it's so easy for the female just to say something and but a lot of people know me. A lot of the models, a lot of the models that I shoot with, a lot of them know me. Yeah. So.
Well, that's a thing too. Is like back home, a lot of people they'll see my page and be like, they'll ask, "Oh, is like my wife okay with it?" I was like, my wife picked out half of the ideas for that and stuff. Like so, and I like I'm showing her while I'm editing this and everything. Like there's nothing that's being hidden from it and stuff. It's like that closed-minded mindset is the reason why we can't be more successful in this area.
Well,
and stuff,
and it also hinders you from doing some of the creative stuff that you really want to do in fear of what people may say, and then you don't want to bring a lot of criticism or attention to your wife.
Yeah, or to the model himself.
Or to the model himself, because I had that issue early in my career with my wife, and because shooting females, it's difficult sometimes, especially when you're married. And my wife at one point just couldn't understand, why you only shooting female? Well, I don't understand, or why she's in that type of pose and this, that, and the other. At that point in time, she didn't really understand the passion that I had for it at that time. Yeah. As my photography career went on, she started to understand. It's no way that he's paying all this money for this equipment and all this stuff to go out and be in front of just to be in the presence of different females. Now, if you seen my wife, I got a beautiful wife. Yeah. You know what I mean? So so she gets it now. Right. She gets it, and she doesn't really say anything, and she's not really too worried because she gets it now, and she see the people in my DMs wanting to shoot. She seeing me getting awards and me being in different magazines and stuff like that. It's a different. And you can look at my work. I think you can look at my work and tell he put some thought in there. Like there's some skill. Yeah, there's some type of skill there. There's a skill set there. That's just not somebody setting up a camera and setting up a light right there and just taking a picture. Every thing that I do when I'm taking a picture is calculated. Right. It's done for a reason. It's never let me put this right here and see what it does. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I learned that very, very young as well in my career. I learned it when I was just starting and I was in a photography class in college, and I didn't have separate accounts. I just had my personal account. Yeah. And one of the very first photos that I did was one of my good friends, still really great friends with her and stuff today. She was in that class, and I just asked her, I was like, hey, I want to do like a black and white photo of you on like a stool, but I want you to like be like topless pretty much. It just shows your back. I'm just trying to get shadows and stuff. Her and I understood, my professor understood, like was nothing crazy about it at all. I took it, posted it, because I was like, oh, this is a great like shot and stuff. But I posted on my personal account. Yeah. I didn't have it separated. Like 5 DMs went straight to like my wife. Was like, oh, did you know he was taking photos of it? And she didn't know it was like for a class at that time, and it was just thing, and I was like, oh my gosh. So literally that week I switched. I created a contract, which that has changed a lot as well. I created my own photography account, and then that started to the whole narrative switched, and it helped me out a lot. Now that's the thing, like you have to recognize that and be like, oh, Like
Yeah,
there has
I'll
to be
usually see. I don't
yeah.
post nothing on my
Yeah.
personal page. I have a 4Everyoung Photos LLC business page, and on Facebook, I keep my Facebook tamed down too. That's only like for
Yeah.
seniors, weddings,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Most of my model
Yeah,
work.
because I was creeping too. 'Cause
Yeah,
I was like, because I want to like take some images and stuff
yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah,
show like some of
yeah.
your work. And I was looking, I was like, man, and I reached out to you. I was like, you got a headshot?
Yeah,
He's like, I don't even got a headshot. I got
yeah.
it stuff. So
But I have I also have a senior page on Instagram, and then I have a senior a wedding page on Instagram, and then I have my modeling page on Instagram.
yeah,
But I tell you what, though, man, the one thing that I wish I would have did, I wish I would have went to school for photography. I never went to
Yeah.
school for photography. I never took any like classes or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just kind of
I learned more on
learn,
YouTube University,
and I'm telling you, man, just spending hours and hours and hours practicing. Even to this day, I spend hours and hours practicing because you know I want to be able to manipulate the camera the way I want it. So if my lights go down,
Yeah.
I can still get good images because I can shoot natural light. I can
Yeah.
shoot natural light. I choose to shoot strobes because it gives me a certain effect that I like.
Right.
But I can shoot natural light with no problem.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So you did. So you're a police officer. You're from the D.C. area originally and everything. You do studio work. Do you have your own studio?
Yeah, I have my own studio down in Hurricane. Me and my buddy, you know, he runs the gym part of it, and I run the photography studio
Okay.
part of it.
All
yeah.
right.
So, but I'm gonna get. I want another space, but
Yeah.
right now that works. That works
Right.
out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we don't really have no our schedules.
And you go live once in a while and stuff too.
Yeah.
I love it when you do, man. I wish you would do it more, but it's hard when being a one-man show.
One man show, yeah.
Dude,
So usually when
so-
I do that, I have to come in, you know, maybe an hour or two before,
Yeah.
set everything up, go through my lighting setup and you know what I'm using, and then once the model get there, I do some stuff of us shooting.
Dude,
and
I would love to do like a behind-the-scene like YouTube video
Sure.
of like kind of like I'm shooting all your behind-the-scenes stuff,
Yeah.
like almost like that.
Yeah.
But like I'm shooting it, and then like we could like help each other. That'd
Sure.
be a really cool.
Yeah,
thing.
anytime, man. That's one thing about me, and anybody who know me will say the same thing. I don't never have a problem. You know, a lot of people, like when I do my behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
people will be messaging me saying, "Man, why you telling people, you know, what
Yeah,
to do with
yeah.
your lighting setups and stuff like
Yeah.
that? I don't understand why you doing it, man. Look, I don't. That's one thing about me. I'll help anybody.
Yeah.
You know, if
Well,
you
and
call
that's
me
just-
and ask me, I'll tell
Yeah.
you why I got the light right there,
Yeah.
my power settings, what camera, what lens. It's not a secret.
Right.
You know, I didn't create this stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
anybody can
learned
do
it from
it.
somebody
Yeah.
else. Anybody can do it. We just have a different eye.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The way I light it, you might not particularly light it that way. We just have a different eye. So I'm not never worried about somebody copying me or taking one of my, you know, I made the theme of a shoot that I do and taking it and doing it. Like, I'm never worried about that stuff. I'm not in photography for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in competition with nobody in photography, you know, or none of that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just never been about that with me.
And that's the reason why I kind of like wanted to start this podcast and bring the overall goal. And the reason why I named it like pull focus is because, you know, that's a term that we use in photography and video all the time. You know, you're going from subject to subject, and I want to be able to give photographers and videographers in our state a platform to be like, hey, it's non-competition. It is. I want to learn from you. You can learn from me.
Sure.
We can, you know, our paths are going across, but it's like I'm not going to be like every single person that, like, the people go to you for a reason, and people
Sure.
go to me for a reason
Sure.
and stuff. And there's plenty of it to go around. And I think once people kind of like realize that and see that, it will click and people can just like thrive a little bit more. One of the reasons, like, I haven't even plugged this yet, but this podcast is sponsored by Megan Nicole Photography. That's where we're shooting at right now, is her studio. And this is another prime example is, you know, like, this is a photographer that's known me for like 5 years, known myself and my wife, and she shoots our Christmas photos. And I brought this idea to her. I was like, I don't have a space. I want to put photographers and videographers and just creatives in general on a platform what can we do? And she was like, well, I don't have nothing going on Mondays in the studio at all. You can go in there. And I was like, and I'll just put every single video is sponsored by it. So like we're helping out each other.
Sure.
And she's getting free advertisement because she's getting plugged in every single video in the description. So it's just like, I mean, I don't know. It's just
I
one
just
of those
never.
things.
So last year, well, about 2 years ago, I created Model Week Charleston.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
And the one thing, the only reason why I stopped doing it is because I couldn't get any participation from anybody here. So a lot of the stuff I was kind of fronting the money and stuff myself. Of course, I would charge a low fee to the models and photographers that were participating, but that was only to buy the refreshments and drinks and food and stuff for the event. I want to get that started back up because I still do events. I just had an event in Florida last year. I just done an event in Lancaster, Ohio at the Paparazzi.
Okay.
So I still have events. I just don't. I never understood why.
Well, I know for me, every single time it was a date that I had a wedding or something. But and that there's another photographer, Heather. Just went away. I'll have to put her. I'll put it in the video and stuff.
Okay.
But she does style shoots all the time.
Yeah.
And every single time that she does, they just did one in Hawaii. They're doing stuff in like Arizona and like. And every single time I either got something booked or like I have something with the family or something. So like I've been wanting to do it really bad because I was like I'm just trying to get out there as well, you know, and I want to meet other people and.
Well,
stuff,
that's what I'm saying. I think that we have enough people here to where we all can get together.
Yeah.
And maybe once, twice, every 2 or 3 months, put something together.
Yeah.
And all the photographers here in West Virginia get together and shoot and create content and stuff. I don't see why that can't happen. Have photo walks and stuff like that. I don't see why that can't. I don't understand why that can't happen.
I think it's just one of those. It's what the West Virginia mindset. I think a lot of people they want to. It's just not as.
Everywhere else has it.
Yes.
You look at some of the big name photographers, Keedron and Manny and all them.
Yeah.
They doing that type of stuff, man. I was just frustrated because I had 2 events for Model Week Charleston. I had 2 events. One was downtown, one was in Huntington.
Right.
I had rented out this junkyard. We had one shooting there. That was kind of cool. So I was getting some good locations. I always wanted to put together a shoot for Hawken Hills and go down there and do some stuff. You know what I mean? So and then you get Cathedral Falls up at the waterfall. I had one of my Model Week events up there. And it's a week-long event. It was a week-long event. So we would start on Tuesday. And every day we would have a shoot somewhere else at a different location. And then on Saturday, we would have the last shoot. And then Sunday, we would have a shoot and then a cookout for all the models and stuff like that. And, so.
No, I was, because I followed that, and you guys had a whole separate social media page for it and stuff. And I think, because was one of them in like May?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had 2 weddings, and that's when it was. And
it was started off Model Week Pittsburgh. My buddy in Pittsburgh, Mike, started it. Yeah. And I was like, man, I went down there to one of his events, which I used to go to all the time. And I was like, man, we need to do something like this in Charleston. And he was like, yeah, set it up. And so I set it up, and it went. Yeah. So I mean, if it's something, man, that you think, you would want to help me with, man, I wouldn't mind. Starting that back up, somehow. Man. Get a model chain. We have a model chain here for muses. When we want to do practice shoots and stuff like that, we got something to pick from. That's models that's consistent. And models like to see. They want to be involved in something too. They don't just, what I mean?
There's a few of them that is like my go-tos all the time, and I'll hit them up, and I won't even charge them now because I'm just like, hey, I want to just.
I have about 5 models that I do like that. That I go down the line and hit them up whenever I want to practice something. Or I get a new piece of equipment that I want to kind of.
Or you just know that you haven't shot in a while. You're just like, I just need to get I just need to do something because you got the itch to do something. That's why I love. May and September is my favorite times to shoot because the weather's not usually too hot, but you get the best golden hours. And that for natural light, for me, I'm just you get a good model, you can literally shoot them anytime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, I mean, to be honest with you, man, I know a lot of people have been seeing me lately shoot in the studio.
Yeah.
I don't really like shooting in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm a location shooter. Only time I really shoot in the studio a lot is in the wintertime.
Right.
A lot of my customers want studio, but I love shooting outside more than anything.
Yeah. What's your what would you say like your favorite shoot of all time has been? You got one that's in your head that you just like
down at that my water shoots are my favorite ones to do of all time, because every time I go down there, it's in the same location, but it's always something different.
Yeah.
It always look different.
That's why, like, water, I always tell some, like, my models when they don't know what they want, but they want to shoot, I said, well, I like motion, so, like, anything with water, hair, and smoke, I want to do, because you can't, people can do a similar photo, but they can't replicate it exactly.
Yeah. And I know I can make that spot down there look like it's not West Virginia.
Yes, yes. You know? And that, dude, there are so many I love. I did a live session on YouTube a couple weeks ago, and I was critiquing my own Instagram, and I was going back, and like some of the things, like I did one portrait in front of a porta potty one time that was all yellow. You look at it, and people was like, they was commenting, they was like, "Are you?" That was in front of a porta potty. I was like, "Yeah, that's the point of the things, because you won't put people, and then you tell them the story behind it. Like, to me, it just makes that one shot just as much valuable.
Just being able to go to a location that doesn't really look like much, and turn it into something. Yeah, that's the joy of photography, man. It's just that's you know, we create stuff. You know, so I go to those places down at the locks and dam down in Winfield. Right. I make that place look like you on a tropical beach or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, where'd you take that? You know, well, that's in Winfield. In Winfield? Yeah. Where at in Winfield? Yeah. You know,
I said this on the last one, but one of my favorite places ever was down in Tates Valley. It was right behind the Wendy's. There was that
field right there.
Field, Now they're making an apartment complex. Yeah. And dude, I went there, but I shot with Brittany McMillan there, and I was able to get.
Oh, Brittany! I've been shooting with Brittany, man, since Brittany was probably 17.
Yeah. Yeah, she's 17, great. Like
18, something like that. She was one of the ones that I practiced with when I first started in photography. Her and another female named Becca. Yeah. So I used to shoot with her and Becca all the time in my earlier years of photography. I used to practice with them all the time.
Yeah, Brittany's so nice too, and like she's very she'll let you know what she's comfortable with and stuff, and she'll also say, like, you know, she always has really good outfits for like what I shoot and stuff, and I love to mix and match. So like I'll try to get, like I said, always bring a lot of stuff compared to, like, I'd rather have a lot to choose from. We don't have to use it all. We can just, like. But I love layers, motion, like that, because, like, if you get a great golden hour, I want to be able to, like, throw on a lot of stuff really quick and then take off if we need to, like, and stuff. And she, but yeah, we shot there, and people was like, "Where's that beautiful field?" And I was like, "You won't believe this, but 30 yards, there's a Wendy's right there." Like, and they was like, "Oh my gosh," and stuff. And that, to me, I was like, is one of my favorite shoots that I've done.
But my most favorite shoot, and I know I said at the Creek in Coonskin, but my favorite shoot is up at Cathedral Falls.
Yeah. I always get nervous. Like, I've never shot there, but I worked for tourism for 3 years, and I just know how much, like, traffic and.
Well, I usually see. So when I shoot up there, I usually get up there by 7 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have the model, and so by 12 o'clock, I'm done. You know, in the summertime, you know, because you get it's light out there. So I used to try to get up there by 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
And I guess with your strobes, it's just what you said. You can control the light.
Yeah, and at that time, all I needed to be is just light out there, and the rest of it just leave it to me, because I can control what I want to control. So now I get up there early and get what I need, and by the time people start to roll in, I'm rolling out. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
that makes a lot more sense now, I actually, since you just said that, because in my mindset, I was like thinking, man, I don't know. I guess I feel like when people set up shoots, they're all setting up the shoots at the same time. Sure. Because that's just how I'm thinking. So it's just like, oh, yeah, they're definitely going to be a golden hour. It's going to be packed and stuff, which I've definitely seen that at places. Like, I did a wedding at Dolly Saw's a couple years ago, and I thought we was going to be the only people in this whole entire ridge line. Get up there, and there's like 100 people. And I was like, Oh my gosh.
Another way to catch Cathedral Falls too is to do it on a weekday when people got work.
Yeah, Tuesdays.
In school.
Tuesdays, according to our data, when I was there at tourism, because that's what I was like in charge of, was the least visited day.
Yeah, because I done been up there sometimes. I done got up there, 9, 10 and stuff like that, and had the whole place to myself till about 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So and you have 1 or 2 people that may come and take a picture and leave.
Yeah.
They don't usually stay, especially when they see you up there taking pictures. They think it's for something, so they don't want to get in the way. So
it's funny that you say that, because there's like, dude, it cracks me up. Like some people, some of the places I shoot and stuff, they'll do that one like hop skip. They don't get in front. Like I was like, how wide do you think the lens is right now? So it's like, no, you're fine. Like you can like. It's interesting because they don't want to be rude, but at the same time they're just like, no, you're stopping me at the same time. So it's just like just move, know. But I've seen some people that are just rude, and they'll just walk right in front of you and stuff. Some of the worst times, I think, which is no one's really fault or anything, but it's like when they do the Holly Brawley down at on Capitol Street during the holidays. There is tons of people down there getting Christmas photos and stuff.
Sure.
Dude, it's just backwards
and forth. Yeah.
I did one session there. It was an engagement session. They wanted to do it like a holiday theme one, and I came back home and I told my wife, I said, I am never shooting at that time ever again. And it wasn't the couple. It was just people, people, man.
People.
And I like shooting in places where I get anxious sometimes if I see people see me shooting, because I feel like I have to like I know what I'm talking about, but it's like I feel like I have to perform in a sense and be like, okay, like I have to get a photo, and I don't know, I feel like they're going to come right up to me and tell me that I'm not doing it right, in my mind. So like that's why I think I like gravitate to, like, I love fields and like water shoots, and just like I also don't want to put the model in a position to feel like they are being watched and stuff. Like I try to but I think a lot of it is my mindset. I look at it and I'm just like, oh no, like I rather feel comfortable, because I want to be able to get as creative as possible.
Right.
Too.
I'm the same way to a certain extent. I'm more so, rather than it being me and being anxious and stuff like that, I'm more so worried about the model, because a lot of females don't like people really staring at them when they doing something. You know what I mean? So they kind of get weirded out. By having other people around just standing there staring. So sometimes, like when I go downtown Huntington and Charleston and stuff like that, if I'm shooting, you have some people that are just stand there and watch because they just want to see what you're doing. It's
weird because you don't know if you want to feel like flattered or just kind of like creeped out.
Well, what they're looking at. They're looking at the model. They ain't looking at me. So they looking at the model, and so that sometimes weird them out. So other than that, I mean, I'm fine. I used to get, kind of anxious and stuff, where I would think, I would think what the people were thinking. Like, do they think I got some girl down here taking pictures of her and stuff like that? You know what I mean? So, but other than that, now, and I've been doing it for so long now, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I just, everything is just.
That's how I feel too. I feel. Because I've been down here for 5 years in Charleston already, which is insane. I mean, I got down here. This will be the 5th year. Right before COVID is when I moved down here. So like the first year too was terrible for me, because I moved down here and I couldn't like create anything. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm in a great location now. Like, I'm trying to get to know people and follow people, and it was like COVID, and then that kind of switched, and I was able to like do more. Last summer I was able to do a lot more, and then you get people like Autumn, you get people like yourself, and just people that I get more excited, I think, when a photographer likes my photo than a random person.
But I gotta give it to you, man. You do good work.
It's like a validation thing that knows that, like, game respects game type deal and stuff. That's the way, like Autumn. I told her, I was texting her and I said, yeah, Kevin's going to be like my my next guest and stuff. And she's like, oh, okay, I love him. Is what she said and stuff. She just had to shoot with you as well.
Yeah, because she did 100,000. She just got 100,000 followers on Facebook.
Yeah.
And she's an awesome photographer, awesome person,
killing it.
We had a blast, shooting. Her pictures turned out real good. She's just a great person.
Yeah, she it's just one of those things. I've been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. She does like a lot of stranger sessions. That's another thing too. Is like I don't want to like set one of those up at all. So like I told her too. I was like, you let me know how I can create content and like collab with you in a way, but it's like, don't look at me to ever like create something like this. So like this is all you.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the ride, and I just want to support you. And once we kind of like we was on that same mindset, she's just been so helpful and mentoring me on a different side, because with that large platform now, like when she posts something, she's getting praise and criticism all at the same time.
Sure.
It's a lot different. I think I've only had like a couple photos really pop off, and when I say really, they got like 600 likes on Instagram, and that was like, to me, that was like, oh, I'm viral, like, but it was, what I mean? It was just like,
it's crazy, man. I often look at, when I post on my story and stuff like that, I will get like, 200, 300, 400 views, 500 views,
Instagram's
and then
weird,
on the
though,
same
man.
picture, the same people will look at it, but won't like the picture.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's so hard about that. You know
Sometimes
what I mean? Like,
I don't see your stuff until I'll look at it and they'll all show up at one time.
Yeah.
Like Instagram, it's just, I don't even know how to like begin with it. Now I know you have Instagram, but do you have Facebook that you post on?
I have a 4Everyoung Fotos fan page.
Okay.
That's when I post on Instagram, I usually post there too.
Okay, I got you.
But like I said, my 4Everyoung Fotos LLC page, mostly weddings and seniors and stuff like that. It's really not many models. I know the only model I had on there, I put on there, was when I shot Miss West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So she was on there. But other than that,
Who's the most famous person have you shot?
Probably Miss West Virginia.
Yeah.
I shot a couple Playboy models in Tennessee at one of Brent Allen's model project photo shoot that me and a buddy of mine usually go to. Other than that,
I was trying to think of who mine would be. I don't know if I really have. I mean, I shot a couple of WU games one time, but that's about it. And then I've shot. Have you shot any Dirty Bird games?
No.
They're really cool. You need to like reach out to them. They'll let you do your own thing, get down the dugout. And
okay.
It's kind of neat.
I shot Leah Messer.
Okay.
Before.
Yeah.
I've shot her before.
Yeah.
I did a couple shots of Alicia Lee. But other than that, that's about it.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because like some of these photographers, they'll really, I mean, they'll put that in their bio and everything. It's like they've shot this so many people and they've been published and they've done this and that. And I'm just like, half the time the published works, you just submit your work.
Sure.
And it's good. But the two that when I started this, I was wanting to. The only way that I wanted to be like published was like if people really went after me. Stuff. And that's the two that has been. One of them was just recently was Praise Magazine. I shot with Lily. Do you know Lily?
I don't think so. I might know her.
I don't know if you shot with her or not. I can't remember. She's really good too. She usually shoots with a lot of people. She was published in that, and Praise Magazine is like right down your alley and stuff too. They do a lot of like either natural light and they have strobe, but I mean they have photographers all across the world and stuff. And they was reached out to her because they saw that it was tagged and they just found us on Instagram and they reached out to both of us at the same time. It was like, hey, we know that you're the photographer and you're the model. We'd like to publish. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
cool.
But I think I don't know how much it devalues like some people's like reputation on it or what, but it's like like if people really want to like want me to shoot that type of like content and stuff, like I really want them to like really come for me and stuff for that and stuff. I don't want to.
Yeah, a lot of those magazines out there are just digital magazines. People, put online and stuff like that, and it's fun for a little bit. You know what I mean? But they send you something, say, "Hey, you give me $200, I'll do this."
Yeah, it's just
that. So it's almost like
it's
almost like you're paying for your photo to be in there. And I don't really get too much into that stuff. I'm not paying nobody.
Some of them, some of them I think they do mean well with it because they want to like do it. But I mean, with any startup and stuff, that's the thing with with this. I'm trying to keep this as minimalistic as possible. And if I'm like, I mean, I just bought this right here in the stands this last time because we was holding them last episode, and I was like, I just want to get better. But I mean, this was like $20.
Sure.
That mic stand was literally at Goodwill for like $5. So it's just like, I mean, I don't know.
It works.
It works. Yeah, it works and stuff.
It works. And as you grow, your stuff will get better and get better and get better. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Nobody starts and they hit the ball out the park right then and there. You got to grow, and you'll be able to sit back and look back and be like, man, look, I came from here to here.
Yeah. I love seeing that progression part too, because like when you see it, and I mean, I look at some of my old work just like 2 years ago, and I'm just like, I look at
some of the people I butchered over the years, and I go back and look at some of my photos, and I'm just like, now, it's effortlessly. I go in and edit photos and do and lighting setups like that, and it's like effortless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
it's amazing though, because it's like, I know for me with editing, like I wasn't even using like presets or anything until
I never used those. I never used presets. All my color grading and stuff like that, I do what looks good to my eye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't use presets in Lightroom. I don't use presets in Photoshop. Everything in my photo, I do from scratch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From frequency separation to
that's
skin
the thing
smoothing
too.
and
like,
all that stuff like that. Like I create all that stuff myself, because with frequency separation, it's different for every person. Some people's skin don't take well to frequency separation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to know how to work frequency separation to make it look good. Sometimes I don't even use it. It just all depends. I never know what I'm going to do. I know how I want the photo to look, but I never know what approach I'm going to take when it comes to editing when I sit down at the screen.
Right. No, I think that's the reason why too. You can like pick out one of your photos among everybody else and stuff too. It's because like you have that certain style. It's not a preset that somebody just like bought for $5 and
just threw on there. So
I don't know. It was like about 2 years ago and stuff, because I followed Ethan Witt Photography. He's out of Huntington. I don't know if you have seen his work or not, but
Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan Witt.
I don't think so. I think the only photographer I follow on there is Mark Webb.
Mark Webb, yep.
Yeah, and me and him talk.
But he does
a lot of seniors and weddings.
Yeah, and he shoots like almost like the same type of style you with strobe too, right? Yeah. So Ethan, he has like this golden, like moody type of vibe, but he does it really crisp and stuff. And I loved it so much. So I was trying to like not, I was just inspired by it. I was like, how can I get my own color into that and stuff? So like I started moving to the way I've been calling this like this whiskey bourbon edit, and if you get a good golden hour, I'm gonna put that whiskey like bourbon, Auburn type of color into it, and dude, if it hits, it hits, and you're just like, this is the best golden like hour that you can get and stuff. And I've shot some really good ones this past year that I've kind of like stumbled up on, but editing for me was one of the hardest things until I started that, because when as a studio art major in college, I was all about painting and layers and just figuring it out. But I don't know, before you color grade and before you do all that, how close is that image to that finished project?
So usually when I approach an image, like I said, I know what I want it to look like. It's almost like I can memorize the scene that it was in, and I try to bring that, because the camera only can capture but so much. So a lot of the things that I'm doing, I'm enhancing what's already there. So I usually go in and I do all my the skin imperfections, moving blemishes and stuff like that. Once I'm finished with the model, that's when I separate the model from the background.
Yeah.
And work on the background separately from the model. Yeah. So if I'm, say, like you said, golden hour, if the scene is warm, I work on that scene separate from the model.
Right.
You know what I mean? So everything is done separately. You know what I mean? So with my color grading, it takes for me to do an image, to really go in on an image, it'll take about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
I got it down to a science kind of like that, because the colors are already there.
Yeah.
I'm just, messing with the luminance and stuff, like the luminosity and stuff like that, making it pop more. It's already there. I'm just making what's there, just enhancing what's there.
I got you.
Pretty much.
That's not too bad then and stuff. I mean,
but if I have a beauty image where I'm doing a beauty headshot or something like that, now it could take me 20 or 30 minutes, because I'm going in and I'm making this picture as perfect as possible. Yeah. You know what I mean? But on images where I'm shooting outside, full body images and stuff like that, there's stuff that you just not gonna see. Yeah. Even if you zoom in.
Yeah. It's interesting. And you just mentioned like retouching too. That's a whole different ball
Took
game.
me a long time to grab a hold of photo. It took me about a year to be comfortable with Photoshop. I used a Wacom tablet. Yeah. I use BenQ photographers monitors. Okay. Every 2 months, I color calibrate my monitors. That allows me to match what I see on my monitor. So the colors that I see on my monitor, I used to hate when I would edit a picture, put it on my phone, and the colors would look different. Yep. It was almost like it would just snap into something else. Yep. And so ever since I started color calibrating my monitors with the Spider color display, I use BenQ monitors, and I use the Spider. It's by Data Color. I use their calibrating tools to calibrate all my monitors. Every 2 to 3 months. And when I started doing that, that was a game changer.
Right. No, I definitely agree with you. I used to, if I edit something on my MacBook, for instance, compared to like my PC, you can see a difference in it and stuff. And then it got to one time I did it, and I was like, I just need to either pick, because what's going to happen, I'm going to end up not ruining, but like I'm gonna waste my time in the sense of like doing all these edits and then exporting it out, and it's gonna be completely wrong. So I was like, now I do all my stuff on my PC, because I know it's coming off of one collar.
And I usually, the only time I really use my laptop is when I use my monitor in the studio. But most of the time I have that set up where I use my iPad in studio and just tether to the iPad, and then
so how's that work too? Because like I've never done that, but I'm very interested.
Tethering, I do that on location too. Okay. Yeah, so even when I'm outside too.
The model can see it like right then and there.
Well, the model can see it. So I have 3 iPads. Okay. When I work with models who I feel sometimes are uncomfortable posing and stuff like that. Yeah. When I know I have a shoot, I use Pinterest a lot. I make mood boards. Yeah. And I go in and get 10 to 12 poses that I want to do. And so when I set up my tethering station, I set up my station for me, my camera on the tripod, and I have my tether tools, iPad holder. And I have that set up, camera set up, phone set up. Use phone for behind the scenes, iPad for tethering, camera, and then I put an iPad in front of the model with the pose on it. Okay. So that she can see the pose. When I say, hey, look, this is what I want you to do right here. And while she's doing that, she can see it at the same time. You know what I mean? Nice. And then once I get her in the pose, then I can tweak it how I want it. And I always tell them, I want you to do this pose. This is the base, but I want you to make it your own. Right. You don't have to do it the exact same way. Right. You know what I mean? That she's doing it on the iPad. So, but tethering has allowed me to see, because that, as well as I do, the back of that screen will lie to you. You'll think you got something exposed, and then you get it into your computer and it's underexposed. You're like, man, it's not so underexposed that you can't bring it back in post. But, it's still underexposed. That the back of the camera lied to you.
You want to do as much as you can on location.
On location, and so that allows me to evaluate the photo and get right there. That's why it doesn't take me long to edit a photo.
Yeah.
5-10 minutes, if that, on a photo, and I'm on to the next one, because I got that iPad right there tethering to it. Even when I'm out on location, I have my whole setup. That tripod, I created that tripod setup myself. I ran those wires on that tripod and everything myself, and it stay like that. The only thing I put on there is the camera and the iPad. The wires stay right there.
So, and then you just take, is it just like a USB-C or something? And then
so all my stuff comes from Tether Tools. I got the Tether Tools cross, but the T-bar.
Okay.
That's what the iPad and stuff on. And then I took a Manfrotto tripod, and I hooked the T-bar to that tripod.
Yeah.
So it's a long bar going across, one going straight down. The one going straight down that's attached to it is what my iPad is hooked to, which allows me to move it up or down wherever I want it. On the right-hand side is where I put a ball head and hook my camera to it.
Okay.
USB-C to USB-C is what the R5 uses.
Yeah.
So I just plug straight into the camera, put a jerk stop on it, plug it straight into my iPad. Capture One mobile is what I use. I either use Capture One or I use Cast Cable. Cast Cable is another app that you can get from the App Store, Apple. That's a really amazing piece of software as well. So I use either one of those depending on how I feel. Sometimes I just want to switch it up. I'll use Cast Cable, but 99.9% of the time I'm using Capture One, and that's the only time I use Capture One. I don't use Capture One on my desktop. I use Lightroom to catalog my images, and then I use Photoshop to edit.
Yeah,
so
I use Lightroom all the time.
So after every shoot, I have the model to rate her images what she wants. So she'll go in, I say, okay, with this session you get 10 images.
Okay.
And she'll go look through her images, and I tell her all the images that you want me to edit, put a 5-star on it.
Okay.
And I take that, and then I just plug my external hard drive up to my iPad, and those 10 images that she picked, transfer them to that external hard drive when I get home.
And you do those
right there on the spot, yeah. And any image after that is extra and additional. So I never go out of a session without having at least two, maybe $100 to $200 worth of extra images bought.
There you go. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And that's just I think that's kind of like a great example of how you can keep tweaking your return on investment on just yourself as your value, because see, like I'm kind of like a little bit different. I shoot all the raws, and then I put in an encrypted folder, and I send that to the people for review only.
Yeah.
And they get to see all the raws, and then they're all labeled, and they tell me which ones they want to edit. So it's kind of like a similar process. I love to do something where I don't know if it's out there that is like affordable or not, but like I really wish there was a cloud that you could upload, select. You could have a little bit more of an interface on the customer and photographer relationship with it, where you can here's the raws, the customer selects all the ones that they want, and it's automatically kind of sorted for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the longest part for me is sorting through all the ones that they want edited. Then I go in and I edit, and then I go in.
So when you say sorting through, so if it's the pictures that they want, then why would you have to sort through them?
Well, so sometimes I don't give them a limit. So sometimes they have 100. Weddings is the biggest one, so sometimes they'll do up to 500 and stuff. So I have to go through and sort and label them with the ones that they told me, and then when I put them in Lightroom, I just I star them, and then I sort them by star. That way I'm just working on all the ones.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by sorting stuff.
Okay.
But it's still going through, and I want to double check too to make sure that the ones that they chose are still good too.
And so now that you say that, that's a thing. While strobes for me is a game changer, right? Because when I do a wedding, I can edit a ton of photos. So say if this was one of the rooms for the wedding,
right? And
I shot it with my strobes and stuff like that. Once I get them in post, I know that I'm in that room. So once I edit one photo, I can batch edit.
Yeah.
I can tag that one edit to all those photos, knowing that the exposure is the same. It's going to give me the same exposure, and then all I got to do is just go through them and make sure. But I'm always right on. I've never done a wedding to where each scene that I shot, even if I was outside, my exposure, once I edited one picture, is hit all of them.
Oh, wow.
And so I always give, so when I do a wedding, I always give 5 high res, so one pictures to where pretty much I go all out on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I try to give them 5 of those. The rest of them are just batch edited. I give them 5 pictures where I go in on, the ones that I know that they're going to get printed, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that I go in on, and I let them pick those. You know, you get to pick these 10 pictures that you know, that I'm going to go all in on when it comes to editing, because it's impossible for you to, you know, you take 4,000 or 5,000 pictures. You know, it's impossible for you to go in and single-handedly edit every single one of those pictures.
I'm learning that the hard way, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I get trigger happy too, and I think I'm trying to like get in a better mindset. I don't need to.
That was one of my biggest problems.
I don't need to do that. You know, like
it's hard.
I need to know that, hey, I got the image. I don't need to take 10.
But that comes with going to come with as your confidence, when you start to do that, starts to get better. Yeah. That's when that'll come. You know, when you get that shot, look, I already got the shot. I don't need to take 4 shots of the same thing. I got the shot.
I'm an overshooter for sure, man. Like I'll even know that I captured it, like detailed shots, and then I'll go back and be like, oh, just one more. I'll make sure, because in my mind, I want to make sure that this couple or this wedding or anybody and stuff is getting what they're paying for.
Yeah.
You know?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I know exactly what it is that you're talking about. And I do this. I still do it sometimes. I'll look at my camera and I took 1,800 pictures, and I'm like, man, and like 20 of the same poses.
Yeah, like, and I mean, I just did a family lifestyle shoot. They just wanted, I mean, probably like 20 photos. They said they just really needed some really simple ones. We was only in one room. I took over 100, and I was just like, I look back at it, I was like, and they understand that they don't want that many, and they didn't, and they was just like, I was like, I'll just go ahead and edit all these, and I went ahead and edited all of them, because it was just like, in my mindset, 100 is not a lot now, and I'm trying to like get into a better, okay.
That's just you being a perfectionist, because you got to understand, even if you took a bad photo, the person who you give them to don't know that you took a bad photo. That's just us and how we look at things. We can look at a picture and pick it apart, but the actual person who you're giving that picture to, they'll think it's the best picture in the world, and you thinking in your mind like, well, I probably could have done this better.
Happens every time.
I could have done that better. I could have done this better. And they like, oh my God, this is the best picture in the world. So I mean, I get it.
It happens to every single client that I have, and so I'll give them the ones, and I'll already make like my selections of the ones I know I'm more like post and market, and most of the time they'll never pick those. I'm just like this is definitely the better one, you know, and it's just like I'm still going to edit and give it to you, because like my mind says, like, if they post it, I want my work to be like
the best work
out there. But I was like, well, if it's not the ones that they like, they won't post it. So it's just like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know? And
I got you.
So, but yeah, so kind of like wrap it up and everything on a lot of this stuff. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour and a half already. Really? Man. Yeah, it's insane.
Photography talk, man. Dude, I can sit here and talk all day about photography.
Is there any artists that you want to go ahead and just kind of like that you've been following, give shout outs to, like in West Virginia that
Tony Gilliam. Like I said, he's one of my he's like family. So, you know what I mean? He's always at my house, and we travel together and do work together. His style is similar to mine, but you know, he has his own little twist on his thing, but it's similar to mine. We use a lot of the same equipment. You think
he'd be interested in the pod at some point?
Oh, sure. I told him I was coming. I told him I was coming to do it, and I'm pretty sure he'd love to sit down with you. He'd love to sit down with you. Tony Gilliam Photography. Great guy, great photographer as well. So
yeah. Are you working on anything that you want to plug or anything like that? This is a good opportunity just to.
Sure. Not really, man. I stay busy doing photography. I'm getting ready to put together a shoot in ATL, just like the one I did in Florida, where I got a buddy who has an amazing studio out there. He has a rain system hooked up to where, like, in the studio it'll rain. So
you're gonna kill it.
Yeah. So I'm in the process of trying to put that together. And once I put that together, I'll advertise it on my page, and you're welcome to come. Yeah. And so that, other than that, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, all of his information is going to be located in the description below, so make sure you guys go ahead, give him a follow. As always, this podcast is sponsored by Megan Nicole Photography and her studio. This is where this is being filmed at. If you guys haven't already, please like and subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts. It's Pull Focus, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.